T. Stevens. T, nice to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. Fantastic. Thanks.
Great pleasure. You're a New Hampshire guy, a Maine guy?
I'm living in New Hampshire. I live in New Hampshire with my family.
Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Massachusetts.
Are you?
But I've lived and worked in every state in New England.
In every state? Excellent.
Every state. Yeah, I really have. So it's a really well-rounded New England experience for my life. I was born and raised in Brockton, Mass.
Sure.
And I was actually a commercial fisherman out of Rhode Island here.
Is that right? Where were you out?
Narragansett, Point Judith,
Yeah.
Galilee.
Yeah.
There's a co-op there. Any fisherman that's listening to our Fisherman's Family,
Oh,
they'll know that co-op.
We know it well.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. And
what did you catch?
we were going after whiting. We were dragging the bottom for whiting, but we'd catch a cacophony of different fish. We'd do a lot of sorting. I was the bottom of the barrel, so I was the sorting and the dragging and the carrying guy when we started. But it was an offshore dragger, and it was quite an experience. It definitely helped mold me into who I am.
It's
today.
a character builder.
Oh, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
That is for sure. It's any fisherman or fisherman's family that you've got to be able to kind of dig deep sometimes, and I give them all the credit in the world.
Oh,
It did. It really did motivate me and kind of polarize my life and get me moving in the direction.
Pretty amazing when you think about it. And so with that kind of background, the book is called Dante's Cypher. It's your first book.
Yes, it is.
All
Yes,
right.
it's my first published book.
How do we go from the whiting boat to to writing? How do we go from whiting to writing?
If I told you that whole story, you'd kick me out of your studio.
Not at all.
Right now.
We're here till noon, T.
The working on the boat from the whiting end of things, it really did help me kind of think with clarity after a while. I had to work off a lot of, let's say, angst back in those days. I was fishing in the 80s, actually before the Perfect Storm. Remember the Perfect Storm?
Sure.
Yeah, I was fishing those same fishing grounds at George's Banks and Southern Grand Banks back then, and that actually, it was so rigorous, let's say, it helped me motivate me to maybe go get an education. I was breaking my back and doing well, but it motivated me to try to go get educated, see what was out there.
Did you think it was just something more to be had, that you couldn't see spending your life doing this?
I couldn't see my life lasting too long doing that. I wasn't the smartest fisherman, that's for sure. There's a lot smarter guys I learned a lot from while I was doing it. But so it just motivated me, and I approached my father and said, hey, I think I want to go to college.
How old were you?
I was 18.
All right, still in the prime age. It's
Yeah.
not like you had this epiphany when you were 40.
No.
Which happens to some people.
Yeah, no, I said to my dad, I think you want to go to college. He said, I think you're going to have to probably do something first. That's how I ended up in Maine, actually. I took a year of prep school. I had to prep to go to college. My grades were terrible.
Yeah.
And it motivated me, and I actually did pretty well. By the way, I'm sorry, I do have to digress. My parents are listening in Florida right now, so I have to say hello, Mom and Dad.
Well, all right. Hello, Mom and Dad. Whereabouts in Florida are they?
They're down in southern Florida in Naples, so I just...
With the rest of Rhode Island?
Yes, they really are. They're snowbirds. They've assimilated. My father will put a sweatshirt on when it's 70 degrees now, and I say, you're born and raised New England, Dad. What's going on? But he's assimilated. My mother, she'll call me when it's freezing down there. It's in the 60s, and she says I had to throw an Afghan on.
I think it's around 63 down there today.
Yeah, it is. They said they had a nice, beautiful sunny day. I said we do too. It was, I think, 11 degrees when I was driving in this morning.
Yes.
Like I know it's 60.
It's all 26 here right now.
Okay.
On the roof.
Absolutely.
And the official Newport temperature isn't too far from there, but there you have it.
Yeah.
So that's so great that Mom and Dad are around. So here you are in Maine, going to prep school.
Yep.
And you eventually made it to college.
Yep. We actually ended up going to the University of Connecticut, and at University of Connecticut, I met people that are with me for the rest of my life. Wendy, my publicist here, who does not want me to mention her, but I'm going to anyways. Wendy, I've known Wendy over 20 years, her and her husband. At University of Connecticut, I met my wife Carla. She's not listening. I think she's doing spinning class right now. But some of my best friends, they're still with me today. My roommate Dave, Buddy. I mean, we all know the names. I hope they're listening. But
I think that we can see this in the book.
yeah, you do. You see a lot of it.
relationships.
The names in the book are my friends' names.
Aha.
I didn't tell them I was using it until afterwards.
Is
I wanted
that
them to be
right?
surprised. Yeah, a lot of them were very surprised. And
Were they like they are in the book?
no, as a matter of fact, I used their polar opposite personalities.
Interesting.
Yes, so if it was someone I was writing about, I thought they couldn't be any further. I'd put that name on them. And the surprise, the smirks I'd get, the comments I'd get from them when they'd read the book and they'd see the name in the book, they were very complimented. You've got to ask their permission. And there's a couple names that were changed. I want to keep those that want to stay anonymous. There are definitely a couple names that were changed, but there's characters in there that if they're listening, they know who they are. But yeah, so that's how it came about. But I'm sorry. Go
Well,
on.
tell us a little about the book now.
The book.
Dante's Cypher.
Dante's Cypher. It's a labor of love. It's 13 years in the making.
Really?
Yeah, I started the story. I wrote the outline 13 years ago. Just the first. I woke up with it in my head based on an experience I had, the place I stayed at, and it was not supernatural. It wasn't anything along those lines. And I woke up with it, and the first thing I could grab was a FedEx box. So I wrote the real rough outline on a FedEx box. It's the etchings of a madman.
Excellent.
So I wrote that, then I sat on it for a little while, wrote some more of the outline, sat on it for a while. And when I actually sat down to write it took about a month to the day. But getting it published was the challenge. I still don't have an agent. I went about it absolutely backwards. Yes. And sent the copies out myself to publishing companies, which is unheard of. They all looked at me like I had rocks in my head.
Yeah.
And Tate Publishing was good enough to take me on. They took me on, they took a chance, they helped me refine the writing, and they supported me. They put together that artwork on the cover of the book. That's their artwork, that's the artwork on the card there too. I had a complete different concept in mind, and they came out with that, and they nailed it. Their conceptual artist, he nailed it.
It's amazing. Yeah.
He absolutely. Now, did you have a chance to read?
I have read. I'm reading it.
Okay.
And it's really interesting, and you can, again, listening to you now, kind of tell the story, fills in some of those,
fills in some of the gaps,
some of those cracks. Yeah. But you know, there's much more that we want to find out, and I'm still reading the book as we speak. But for those who have not, where is it set?
It starts in Maine, in northern New England. I hate to sound cliche, but the place I stayed was actually in Maine.
There you go.
So that's how it started. I know that the king of all things horror, he does a lot of his writings out of Maine.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm a big fan of his. I like his writing, but what motivated me with him was all the trials and travails he had before he was published. He lived really lean and really thin. Stephen King, he had to persevere, and that's one of the things that helped me stay motivated to get this book, see it through to publication. I thought I had something valid. I put it out before in a manuscript form to I put out 50 copies of people and said, read it and rip it apart. And they all kept coming back to me with solid feedback, So I stayed with it, but his perseverance, what he went through, motivated me to see it through.
Yeah.
And so it starts in Maine. I'll call it a retrospect. It does a retrospect, doesn't travel through time, but it goes retrospects back to the Inquisition.
Yeah.
And then comes back forward to modern day, and it's. I don't want to give away too much because it's
Just give us
a lot of twists and
a little
turns.
taste, because we want to come and meet you, and we
Okay.
want to have we want to buy the book and talk about it and things like that. So we'll get into a little bit of it in just a second. Here we're talking with author T. Stevens. His first book is Dante's Cypher. It's a Tate Publishing book available everywhere, and we'll talk more with T just ahead. It's Talk of the Town from 1540 WADK and WADK.com.
We offline? What could I be doing better?
You're fine. You're